Okay, so thank you everyone who is here in Zoom with Temple Mount Sinai Sisterhood's presentation with Anat Hoffman of Women of the Wall. We also have folks here at Temple Mount Sinai in person. We're probably going to be doing these dual events for quite a bit longer to make sure that as many people that want to be included are included. Just a slight warning about those who have loving, adorable pets there in the house. I definitely suggest you go ahead and hit mute, just so there's no disruption when we're doing videos or stuff like that. If you don't know where the mute button is, or you can't catch any background noise that's happening, I am happy to mute you on my end. It's nothing personal. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I just want to make sure that we can all share this time without a lot of disruptions. I personally am putting my phone on mute so I can focus and will not get distracted by my many apps that like to abduct me about Sunday sales. That's happening here in El Paso.
Can you put this on with the closed captioning? Do you have the ability to do that from there?
I do not believe that we have the closed captioning option on our Zoom account. I believe that's a level up from what we have. But I believe I have access to a program that I will be able to do the closed captioning after the fact for the recording that we'll be putting on YouTube. I'm so sorry about that.
Nope, no.
Okay, so all of that said, I did first want to thank Fifi Heller-Kayam, who worked really hard on reaching out to Anat and Nehama. Oh goodness, I lost the screen. There it is. Reaching out to make sure that we could get this presentation for Women of the Wall. Sisterhood did a donation to Women of the Wall, and of course we encourage Sisterhood members to donate directly to Women of the Wall. We've already had 4 Sisterhood members who added to a donation while they registered for this event. Of course, I'll be sharing all of that information with everyone after the event as well. And without further ado, I am going to read the bio of Anat Hoffman, and then we will have a quick video just so we can all get in the mindset of why we're here, and then Anat will take it away. Anat Hoffman, an Israeli born in Jerusalem, serves as the executive director of the Israel Religious Action Center since 2002. Her position at IRAC places her at the forefront of efforts to advance religious pluralism in the state of Israel. As executive director of IRAC, Anat has fought and won recognition of reform and conservative conversions by the state and led the struggle against gender segregation in the public domain, including on public buses, airplanes, and a national radio station. In her teens, Anat was Israel's swimming champion, where she learned to dive headfirst into the deep end. This gave her the strength necessary to carry out her work in the past and today. Anat has led Women of the Wall for over 3 decades in their struggle towards gender equality at the Western Wall, the holiest site of the Jewish faith. She also served on Jerusalem City Council for 14 years, heading the opposition. In this role, she pushed relentlessly for equality and tolerance in a city run by a powerful Orthodox bloc. Anat was selected as a Person of the Year by Haaretz in 2013 and chosen as one of the 50 most influential Jews by the Jerusalem Post in 2014. Globes named her as one of Israel's top women activists in 2018. Anat got her bachelor's degree in psychology from UCLA and her master's degree in psychology from Bar Ilan University. Anat is a mother of 3 and has 1 grandchild. She lives with her partner in Jerusalem. And now I will be sharing screen with everyone. And Okay.
Put on your face, know your place. Shut up and smile. Cause no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, take that dry blue pill. They may see a monster, they may run away, but I have to do this. I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. No one woman I can't keep quiet. There'll be someone who understands. Must be someone who understands. There'll be someone who understands. I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. No, I won't keep quiet.
Okay, I already saw a couple of people wiping their eyes. Definitely understand we'll have a question answer, and of course, we can share our thoughts afterwards. But for now, I would like to present Anat Hoffman. I am going to spotlight her so we can focus. Thank you.
Thank you. Shalom, and thank you for the tears. This short video shows what it's like to try to bring the Torah to the wall. I'm the proud mother of the person who made the movie, my daughter. I told her we need to put in little headlines. We need to talk. We need to explain. She says, Mom, the music is going to do it. Just let me put the music and that's it. And I'm so glad that I changed my mind. And speaking of changing minds, I want you to know we rarely change our mind on anything. If I asked every one of you, tell me about something you changed your mind about in the last 10 years, you'll see it's going to be hard for you to come up with something. So I want you to know that Texas changed my mind about one thing. I thought brisket was this horrible, hard piece of meat that you get on Rosh Hashanah with the tzimmis and the sweet prunes on it, and it's just unedible. And I came to Texas and I had barbecue brisket. My eyes were opened and I changed my mind about brisket forever. Brisket is out of this world. It's wonderful barbecued, and a Texas barbecue is wonderful, and it opened my eyes to the whole world of Tex-Mex, which is, you invented it. It's right there in El Paso. Wow. So thank you for inviting me, even virtually, to the capital of Tex-Mex in the world, and the inventors of the barbecue brisket. It really is I also changed my mind about Brussels sprouts. Just so you know, I thought they were these horrible boiled things that I don't know, didn't understand anything about them until I had them grilled. Have you had grilled Brussels sprouts? It's wonderful. Okay. I know this is a presentation about Israel and women of the wall, but I do want to talk about the difficulty in changing one's mind, particularly if one has a monopoly and full power and complete control. It's very hard to let go. And women of the wall are doing exactly that. We're demanding from the powers that be to let go of their absolute power. And it's perfectly understandable that they don't want to relinquish power. And you know what? If the reform movement or the conservative movement had absolute power over everything religious in Israel, I think we would be just as corrupt and just as determined not to let anyone else rain on our parade. So last Friday, Women of the Wall came for the celebration of Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet. We were about 300 people. Can you come up with a number of how many demonstrators came to disrupt our prayer? We were 300. Would you say 1,000 would show that they really don't like us? Well, 15,000. 15,000 disruptors came to the wall in 100 buses to the tune of $250,000 shekel to demonstrate against women because they can't handle the idea that women are praying out loud, wearing a prayer shawl, reading from the Torah, and putting on phylacteries. You know, when you see such an overkill, when you see that they're expending so much effort, you understand that we have a powerful message. We must be very, very subversive. If they need to bring 15,000 people on a Friday morning, none of them praying. If you look at the videos, you'll see that none of them is holding a prayer book. They're all there to demonstrate against those women. So I'm very proud of those women. And I think they're very courageous to walk into a demonstration of such magnitude. And I am proud of the reform and conservative movement that sent their leadership, both the leadership from abroad and the leadership from Israel. We marched with all our partners, demanding the right of women to read from the Torah at the holiest site of the Jewish people. You know, if it wasn't so serious, it does have its comic aspects. Think about it. First, think about the fact that it's a wall, okay? It's a wall. And we're fighting for the right to read from the holiest site, from the holiest book of the Jewish people at the holiest site of the Jewish people. And the rabbi of the wall, let me just get his book because it's so entertaining. Here is his book. It's almost 600 pages. And you know what? I'd give you $1,000 if you can find one photograph of a woman in the book. The book has 500 photographs. Not one of a woman. These are all men. Everywhere you see. As you know how hard it is to take pictures at the wall and not take one photo and not find one woman in the frame. That takes some acrobatics. Anyway, I want to open the Rabbi of the Wall's book. What makes him the Rabbi of the Wall is the fact that he gets a salary, $1.5 million shekel a year, to be in charge of the holiest site. Here is his opinions about women. And I just want to say, in this whole book, this is the only comment about women. I read the whole book. There is no other comment other than these two. יש נשים הנוהגות כשהן בנידותן, בימי ראייתן, נזהרות מלגשת אל הכותל המערבי ולרחבה שלפני הכותל המערבי, שדינה לעניין זה כעניין בית כנסת. Women who are menstruating during the days that they see staining in their panties, they do not approach the Western Wall and they do not go to the main plaza, which is an ultra-Orthodox synagogue. Wait, it gets worse. אלו שבאות אל הכותל המערבי בכל עת, לא יסתכלו בספר תורה בשעה שמגביהים אותו להראות לעם. Those who come to the wall at all times, they shouldn't gaze at the Torah scroll when it is lifted in the men's section. Ladies, not only do we have the cooties on our bodies, we have the cooties in our eyes if we can't gaze at the Torah scroll, okay? And that's it. There's no other comment about half the Jewish people. Do I think he's crazy? No. I think he's a zealot extremist. I think he's entitled to his extremist opinions, but God damn it, I don't think he deserves to hold the keys to the holiest side of the Jewish people. That is the crazy part. Not the fact that he thinks that. I'm trying to explain that I'm not against ultra-Orthodoxy or against strains of zealotry in Judaism. We've always had them. I'm against the fact that the sovereign state of Israel, the democratic, secular, sovereign state of Israel, has taken the keys and given it to a zealot extremist. Who should the keys go to? Well, the Kotel Agreement, which was signed in 2016, talks about two plazas right next to each other. One plaza for the ultra-Orthodox and the other egalitarian, equal, open, friendly, and it will be run by us, by women of the wall, by the reform and conservative movement. You know, as mothers, we all know that solution. You go to this room, and you go to that room, and don't talk to each other. Basically, that's the Kotel Agreement, two plazas, and may the best plaza win. We intend to make our plaza so colorful and wonderful and friendly, and we will not demand extreme modesty from every woman who comes. If you come dressed in the way you will go to the parliament, to the Knesset, that would be good enough for us. This is not good enough now. Right now, they are putting a shmate that says the property of the Western Wall Heritage Foundation on every person who comes, even on a little girl, a 5-year-old, they put the shmate on her. And what does she learn when her brother marches to the wall as is and she has to put on a shmate? She's learning that there's something wrong with her perfect, beautiful body. So that is something we won't be doing. We will allow a blind person with a seeing eye dog. We will allow bar mitzvahs to a deaf child. We will allow women to wear a talit and dance and celebrate. In fact, we will give them talitot. So of the 12 million visitors who go to the wall every year, where do you think most people would like to go? Where do you think they'll be more comfortable? With the rabbi of the wall or with us? I think the rabbi is worried. I think that's why he brought 15,000 demonstrators. I think he's not ready for competition because I think he's worried about losing. And in order to hurry up his defeat, we have a new project. We want to be heard. You see, we used to be very few women. Now that we're hundreds, we need to be heard. We want our shlichat zibur, our cantor, to be heard. And much as she tries to project, we can't hear her. So we want to have a choir, the Women of the Wall Choir. And I want to request from every one of you, think, do you know Barbara Streisand? Because if you do, I need you to ask her to sponsor the Yentels, our choir, please. Does anybody know Barbara Streisand? I'd settle for Carole King, Bette Midler. If you can think of some great American voice, female voice, that would be interested in supporting our 20 women who project and are professional singers, we will cover them with our talitot. You know that we have a talit, that Women of the Wall talit, and we will march them to the sweet spot in the middle of the women's section. Acoustically, it's the best spot in the whole of Jerusalem, and we'll be heard big time. Yes, so let's open it. I've heard myself before, and I'm dying to hear you guys. So if you could, let's dialogue. And let me just tell you one little thing. If you forget to unmute yourself, and I get to say, Fifi, unmute yourself, you've made my day, just so you know. I love saying that. So let's go ahead. Let's hear you.
So Monica Kimball did have a question. I'll let her ask once she unmutes herself.
Yeah, hello, Anat. It's such a pleasure. Shalom to you. I had the question, and Larry Lesser, who's also attending the call, has an answer already. But I wondered if it's true that modern Orthodox are now even joining the fight against this hegemony, the monopoly of the Haredim, and this power play, as you say, that they're are part of every day in Israel, and fighting it, as you say, because the loss of power is frightful to them. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you in Jerusalem are aware of, that even more modern Orthodox are.
So what was the answer you got? You said you asked.
Well,
somebody.
Larry, who was part of the call, sent an email that one can access to find out about it. He says it's an example of how modern Orthodox indeed have a different view than the Haredim. But I just
That's
wondered
true.
how
That's
that
true. And
works
the
in
new
practical
Minister
terms.
of Religious Affairs is going to appoint this week a woman to run the religious council in Beit Shemesh. Beit Shemesh is the hub of religious coercion in Israel. Wait and see what happens. But she is a modern Orthodox woman. And I can't think of a more brave thing than her taking the job of running the religious council in Beit Shemesh. So I would even venture and say that the bravest feminists I know in Israel today are modern Orthodox. And one of them is the executive director of Women of the Wall, Yochi Rapoport. If you want a treat, invite her over to El Paso. Just a treat. Orthodox and so radical, she would really make you think again about, you'll never think about orthodoxy again after you meet Yochi. So yes, I think it's very hard to be modern Orthodox in Israel. They are attacked from both sides. Their own children say to them, wait, mom, dad, if you really want to be religious, we have to be ultra-Orthodox. And they have to say, no, we are Orthodox, but we are also modern, and we're also liberal, and we will not humiliate and shame another human being in the name of religion. You remember the story that I think it's the Queen of England, that she was hosting some great dignitary from China or somewhere. And after they ate fish, they were given some rose water to clean up their fingers. And the guest misunderstood. He took the bowl and drank the rose water. And the Queen followed suit. She did the same in order not to shame the guest. And I think ultra-Orthodoxy on this juncture will humiliate the guest. And modern Orthodoxy won't. So I really, hats off to the modern Orthodox women of Israel. They are marching and they are making a difference. They're revolutionizing religion. And no wonder the rabbis are very, very upset over them. It's the hardest place to be. Remember, I'm nestled in the reform movement. I have nothing but compliments and support every day. But an Orthodox, modern Orthodox woman, she has flack in her own family, in her neighborhood, and still she marches. I can't tell you how much I admire her.
Well, thank you so much. That really answers it quite well. I'd also like to add, for you and for everyone to know, that I've introduced that the Federation, the Jewish Federation of Greater El Paso, should join IREP, which is part of the Federation, as you know, and interested very much in plurality and in fairness and justice, religious pluralism in Israel. So at the next board meeting, we are voting actually to become, hopefully, and I think it'll pass, members of IREP, voting members of IREP. I just wanted to throw that in so you know the support's here.
Why don't you also pass a resolution to bring out to the Jewish Agency and the Zionist organizations that the Jewish Federation of Greater El Paso supports the right of women to read from the Torah at the Western Wall. How about that?
All right, I'll introduce that too.
Okay.
Thank you.
It looks like Diane Harris Klein has her hand raised for us.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for this. I hadn't heard about your movement, I admit, and so I'm very heartened. I did want to ask from the video about the phylacteries. In the Reform tradition, we kind of view those as archaic. Were they meaningful or just to goose the men?
No, no.
What was the deal with the phylacteries is my
So
question.
the deal is the following. The Reform women in Women of the Wall, they don't put on phylacteries. But we are not just Reform. In fact, Reform are a minority in Women of the Wall. We are mostly Orthodox and conservative. So for them, it's part of their daily routine. They do it every day, not just at the wall, not just she sneezes because she knows it teases. She has them every day. And of course, she wants to put them on at the wall. And they're very, in fact, last February, we had a workshop at the wall on Worldwide Rap Day. There is such a day by the conservative movement. And we taught dozens of women how to put on phylacteries at the wall. Just so you know, Women of the Wall set out with 4 strategic goals. Tefillah, to pray out loud. Tefillin, to put on phylacteries. Talit, to wear a prayer shawl. And Torah, to read from the Torah. Of these 4 goals, we won 3. It is now legal to wear a talit. It's no little deal. Some of us were arrested for wearing a talit. So, and let me tell you, having a criminal record hampers your ability to leave Israel, come back. I always say to them in the airport, you see that I have a criminal record. Don't you want to get rid of me? Why do I have to be in line? Yes. So if you've been arrested and charged, you get a criminal record. And I have a criminal record over breaking the 13th regulation of the law of holy place. In a law that holy places in the empire of the British was that you can't piss on the wall, you can't spit on the wall, you can't write graffiti on the wall, no slaughtering of animals at the wall, no begging at the wall, etc. 12 regulations. The 13th one is called the Women of the Wall regulation. And your ears should be perked up every time you hear that there's a regulation that is tailor-made around one group. Okay, if there was a law about Diane Harris Klein, we should know this is a bad law. A law shouldn't be tailor-made to one person. So the regulation is the following. Anyone performing a religious act contrary to local custom, which offends the feelings of others, is punishable by 6 months imprisonment. Let's look at this regulation. When they throw a chair at me, do you think that breaks the regulation? Does it offend my feelings? No, it is not a religious act. It's plain assault. Who can make a religious act that offends the feelings of others? Think hard. Only Women of the Wall. There's nothing happening in the men's side, which is a religious act, contrary to local custom, which offends us. There's nothing. Whatever men do is fine over there. In the women's section, it's the only place where you can perform a religious act contrary to local custom that offends others. But if all of Temple Sinai marched to the wall right now today, men, women, children, and everybody, and the rabbi led them in saying Shema Israel as a mixed community, you're breaking the 13th regulation because it will be a mixed group, men and women together, performing a religious act that's contrary to local custom. That goes, all of you would be deported doing that. So Women of the Wall are not just fighting for our own rights. I think in these 3 decades, we were able to open Judaism in Israel to the revolutionary notion. Listen to this, hold on to your seats. There is more than one way to be Jewish. Your children say, duh, but in Israel, it's the most subversive thing you can say. There's more than one way to be Jewish. And women of the wall are demanding the right to read from the Torah at the women's section. And we do not believe it's a religious act that offends the feelings of others. And if there are people who are offended by a woman reading from the Torah respectfully, with dignity at the wall, they should stay home. Is it true that Billy the Kid lived in El Paso?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But he also spent a lot of time in Las Cruces, which is right next door to us.
Okay.
Well, and also the only jail he ever broke into is here in San Elizario.
Okay. Wow, what a reputation. We've got the wall and you've got the only prison that Billy the Kid broke out of. Okay. Any more
Question.
comments or questions?
Yes, Anat, could you just very briefly tell us about some of the early evolution that brought you to begin this remarkable movement? I mean, over 30 years, that's an incredible commitment. May you just briefly tell us, what was it that just motivated you to say, enough is enough?
Hi, Fifi. Thank you for the question. And again, you're having the best hair day ever.
She always has that hair day. Always.
Okay. I wish I could tell you that I dreamt at night, I had a vision, I realized that fighting for the rights of women and equality at the wall is the right thing to do. I wish. The truth is that I attended a conference in December of '88, and it was here in Jerusalem in the hotel, the Hyatt Hotel. And the women who came to this, it was the first feminist conference in Israel on the empowerment of Jewish women. And it was mostly in English because so many of the participants came from abroad. We weren't that many feminists in Israel. And one of them from Flatbush, New York, met me at the lobby, and she told me, I understood all the English she said. She said, we're going to the wall tomorrow to bless the state of Israel, Tfilah L'Shlom Hamdina, the prayer for the state of Israel. And we want to read, and then she said the word Torah. And I didn't know that in Flatbush, Torah is Torah. That's how they pronounced it. And she explained that the hotel, the Hyatt, won't rent her a folding table. And would I schlep a folding table? I told her that as a social activist, of course, I own a folding table, but I wasn't going to join these romantic tourists from America who were going to go to the wall. They didn't know that the wall is the ultimate discotheque of the ultra-Orthodox. They didn't realize that you don't do things like that. They were going to pray for Israel with their starry-eyed and romantic ideas of how wonderful this will be. So I didn't see the light, Fifi. I really, I'm sorry. I schlepped the table reluctantly, and I saw this group of women being absurdly attacked, really, in the most humiliating ways. And as a Jerusalemite, I realized this is something that would never have entered my head. It actually been bred out of me from birth. And that lady from Flatbush gave me an enormous gift, a vision of the final frontier for women, equality in religion. Trust me, this did not evolve naturally in Israel. And thank God for the collaboration between us and diaspora women that came up with this idea 30 years before its time. I can't tell you, this is one of the wonderful examples of how diaspora acts like a diaspora. You know, a diaspora is a botanical term that means a plant that can fly with the wind and plant itself places. So Rivka Hout and Norma Joseph and Phyllis Chesler and the women who started Women of the Wall in New York, gave us a great gift.
So Noel Hollowell Small also had a question. But Noel, are you able to unmute and share with us, or do you want me to just read it?
Noel, unmute yourself.
I apologize. I'm dealing with the kids. I'm trying to keep them calm in here. My question is that I know that I'm a board member of the El Paso's Federation, and I know we are committed to the 2016 agreement. I know that it was halted a couple months ago, if I'm correct. And I was wondering if there was any updates to that.
So first, hooray to you and your children. Children are good. Future.
Thank you.
But it was annulled 1 year later. It was annulled in June 2017. So it lasted, the Kotel agreement, the government of Israel voted for it 15-5 and annulled it within a year. And there's very little movement forward now because it's so scary. And that big demonstration on Friday showed that the ultra-Orthodox on this issue are willing to start a civil war. And I believe that if Israel doesn't take a stand on this and implements the wall agreement, which is so fair, it's fair because they're losing nothing. They will continue to have the main plaza as it is today. We're talking about building another plaza. You will not lose anything, except one thing. People will go to where they feel accepted. And I think we will be nicer. And I think that the best plaza will be ours. That is something, but they have to compete in the world of plazas. That's it. You got to grow up and fight for, you can't use to stop everybody.
I have a follow-up question to that. Is the plaza the other part on the other side of the wall that like kind of continues? Is that the one? Okay.
The wall
I
is
was there.
483 meters long. Right now, you know, the main plaza is 60 meters. Think about it. There's plenty of wall for all the Jewish people if we are just willing to share. And just like you with your children, you say to one child, you go to this room, and the other goes to the other room. That's the plaza.
So I do want to let you know I was there about 3 years ago in that area, and I was pushed out of that area. That's supposed to be the public area, and
Yeah.
we had been very intimidating. Men come in, put a wall up there. I was very disappointed. So I'm hoping that by to go again in the next couple of years that isn't the case. But thank you for being here this morning. I really appreciate you.
It really is a pleasure to visit the boot. Someone had just wrote me that it's the boot capital of the world. El Paso. Okay.
So we also had Ellen Goodman had raised her hand.
Hi, Anat and Nechama. To Nechama's chat note, I follow the Women of the Wall on Facebook, and every time there's a Rosh Chodesh service at 10:45, 11 o'clock at night, I'm lying in bed singing Shachrit with them, which is a really warped thing because they do this the morning service, and I'm lying in bed at night. The only way you got your Torah into the section was with Rabbi Kariv, right?
No.
Oh, I thought.
No,
I mean,
I'll
this
tell
is-
you why. You're in the know, so let me explain. Rabbi Kariv, till the very last moment, was not willing to commit. He has tremendous pressures on him not to bring the Torah. The president of Israel called him and asked him not to bring the Torah. And we, to the last minute, weren't sure whether he'll bring the Torah or not. And what do we do when we're not sure about other people? We take care of our own. So in a way that I cannot disclose to you, we were able to bring our own Torah. The one we read from was our own Torah. We had a second one because in the last minute, he decided Kariv decided that he's using his parliamentary immunity and he is bringing in a Torah. As a result, he is in a tremendous hot water. The next 2 days later, in his committee on the Constitution, one of the ultra-Orthodox members of the parliament walked in with a shofar and blew the shofar for an hour, disrupting the meetings of this committee. The Constitution Committee is one of the most important committees in the Knesset, disrupting the proceedings until they had to bring police to get him out. So Kariv was really not sure if he can or can't, and that's why we took care of it ourselves. Besides, the Torah that he brought was not folded in the right place, was not rolled to the right parasha. Ours was
Perfect.
perfect. But
So another question, and I don't know who does your shop stuff. I would love a Four Mothers Talit Gadol.
Nechama, where are you?
I'm
Where's
right
the
here.
comment?
I wish we could help you with that, but the gentleman who makes them or his team doesn't make it in the wide. We have,
Maybe she wants the blue one.
Garden of Eden in wide. What?
Maybe she wants a blue and white one.
The Spirit of Jerusalem, I saw that, but I'd rather, yeah, I mean, that's, 76 by 41, that's pretty much a Gadol, isn't that?
Yeah.
Yes, it
is.
is. It's absolutely exquisite. The Spirit of Israel is just beautiful with blues and silver. It's gorgeous.
I have one here. I have one here. You want us to
there you
go
go.
get it? You want me to go get it?
Sure.
So Nechama, entertain these folks, because it would take me 30 seconds to climb up and bring it, okay?
I have the one that is, I guess the one I have is the one with the rose
The
colored.
pinks and the purples.
Yes,
That's the
It's-
Four Mothers. Yes.
it's absolutely gorgeous. I love
Yes.
mine. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful. And
We only have it
keep-
made in one size though, but
Oh.
the spirit that Anat is holding is much bigger. And at one time we did have the Garden of Eden made in a large size, but we're not doing that anymore either. But you can see as Anat is our model, how it looks.
Can you see how pretty
Yeah,
it is?
beautiful. Toda rabah.
Thank you for asking about it, Ellen. Thank you.
Yeah. It just, it infuriates me, but then when you see someone like Ruchi, I mean, what is she, 4'11"? And she has such a spirit, such an neshama that just, it's inflamed when she's there. She's amazing.
She is amazing.
And
She
during-
really is.
And during the shutdowns, I remember her doing Zooms, reading books to her children, and it was just amazing.
Ellen, you're a sister. You're one of us.
Yeah. Yep.
So in the chat, Monica Kimball had a bit of a question. Larry is so smart. He's always answering questions. Monica, did you want to ask Anat the question? And I'm sure the answer will be very similar to Larry's very wise answer. I think
I'm
she
trying to
was-
figure out, Naomi, which one I asked. And by the way, Alan Goodman, go for it. This is great that you're watching actually the Rosh Chodesh services. Good for you. I should be doing the same. Let's see, what was it that Larry already answered?
You asked about Chabad.
Oh, yeah. We have here in Paso as well as Las Cruces, we have Chabad that's actually quite active as large memberships, more than our Reform temple has. And I was just wondering what the Chabadniks do in Jerusalem. I mean, I've seen them when I've been there, but what influence do they have on what we wish to have happen in the future?
Chabad are extremely friendly abroad, and they don't charge membership abroad, and they are very flexible and elastic abroad. In Israel, they are a zealot ultra-Orthodox group searching for donors in the Reform and Conservative movement to sponsor the shluchim, those messengers that are in El Paso and Las Cruces. So there's something very, a little bit confusing that this wonderful, friendly couple that opened their homes in El Paso from Chabad, and they're willing to accept everybody, and they're so nice.
Same in
And-
Las Cruces.
What?
It's the same in Las Cruces.
Yeah, they're very nice. Once you fall in love with their daughter and want to get married, you'll realize that's not something they're going to allow. And in Israel, they are considered very right-wing, very zealot, very extreme. I envy Chabad for the ability and the and also the total commitment that's required to live in Nepal and conduct the biggest Seder in the world up in the mountains of the Himalayas to 3,000 Israelis, I think, or something. It's really amazing what they're willing to do all over the world. And I wish our movements, the Reform Conservative, had some of this total commitment that the Chabadnikim have. However, there's something different they do at home and something they do with the guests. They're very sweet and elastic with the guests, but if you enter the Chabad movement, you become very extreme in chauvinism, in racism, in ethnocentrism. And of course, as you know, a large faction of them believes that the rabbi, the rabbi of Lubavitch, Schneerson, is the Messiah, and he really died. Well, we're talking about, what can I say? A movement that is close to Judaism, but not Jewish, because one of the things that Judaism doesn't believe in is that we have seen the Messiah and his name is Schneerson. That's not part of what mainstream Judaism believes right now.
Yeah.
But let me say something about mainstream Judaism. In the 50s, Israel embarked on this very large project of the Hebrew Encyclopedia Ivrit. And there was a time that 90% of all the Israelis living in Israel had the Encyclopedia Ivrit in their library. It was considered the flag, a symbol of the new state. And it was like the Britannica, but in Hebrew, focusing on Israel. So, as you know, books have lost their luster, and books have no value these days, and you try to get rid of a library that's wonderful like my library, and you'll find that nobody wants it. So there are books on fences and books in the streets that I could find, because when people die, their families just let go of the library. So I saw the Hebrew Encyclopedia, and I took the volume that starts with the letter Yud, and I looked up Yahadut, Judaism. And I thought, there'll be at least 1 or 2 volumes about Judaism, wouldn't there? In the Hebrew Encyclopedia. And by the way, the 2 editors, Professor Ephraim Urbach and Professor Shai Leibovich, both are ultra-Orthodox men. And to my shock and amazement, I opened Yahadut in the Hebrew Encyclopedia, and I found one line. It said, look up Am Yisrael. Look up the people of Israel. Because these 2 wise ultra-Orthodox professors didn't dare to define what is Judaism. The story of Judaism and what is Judaism is our story. The story of the Jews of El Paso, and the stories of the Jews of Haifa, and the story of the Jews in Casablanca. This is Judaism, and it's multiple stories. So think how wise and how courageous. These 2 ultra-Orthodox professors of Judaism couldn't define what is Judaism. Look up Am Yisrael. Look up the story of the people of Israel. That kind of modesty and courage is missing in Israel today. You ask today the chief rabbis of Israel to write encyclopedia, they will put 10 volumes of what is Judaism, and they will ram down your throat what is Judaism.
Thank
Larry,
you.
Larry commented to the Chabad question that Chabad is ready and the world outlook, which essentially means that El Paso has no real home for those with modern Orthodox sensibility. I think I kind of recognize that within our community. We have incredibly passionate people who end up landing as fringe members in multiple spaces. And I appreciate those people trying to place themselves in as many comfortable spots as possible to share their wealth of knowledge and passion. And one of those people definitely would be including Larry and his partner.
The easiest thing is to ask the Chabad the director that you know, what did he think of Women of the Wall? What does he think of LGBTQ? What does he think about the fact that a woman will now run the religious council in Bet Shemesh? And you will have your answer.
Did anyone else have any other questions or comments or anything else that they would like to share?
If not, I will have closing remarks. So here are my remarks. First, I want to commend the sisterhood of Temple Mount Sinai, because not everybody invites us in. Some congregations believe that good news from Israel is better than the story of Women of the Wall, which is, it doesn't qualify as good news, because it's quite incredible that it is illegal for a woman to read Torah at the wall. So they focus on, technology in Israel, agriculture, music, all sorts of things that are really incredible. Israel is a tremendous source of pride in all these other areas. Sadly, religiously, we're bankrupt. Judaism in Israel is very stinted because of the ultra-Orthodox monopoly. We have only one way to be Jewish, and if you want to know that it's bankrupt, look at the nearest Israeli to you. I'm sure there are Israelis in El Paso, and I'm sure they never come to shul. And I'm sure you quickly realize that they think they're super Jews, but when you really talk to them, you see they're quite ignorant. They don't know much Judaism. They think that being an Israeli is enough. So let me tell you something. Speaking Hebrew perfectly and pronouncing Chet and Resh correctly does not a Jew make. It makes you a perfect Hebrew speaker, like 1.4 million Israelis who are Arab, who speak Hebrew better than many of your rabbis, and they are not Jewish. To be Jewish, you need to have your identity as a Jew. You need to love this stuff. You need to have it part of your lives like you do. And I'm quite moved that your sisterhood decided to host us and to support us. Those women, I understand 4 of your members already made contributions. Thank you, really, thank you very much. And thank you for the tears. The women who wept during our short video, these tears are our tears. We cry them when we're at the wall. We go through tremendous fear, humiliation, anger. It's very hard to be a woman at the wall. And yet here we are, 33 years. And as I said, we have won the right to wear a talit. We are won the right to put on phylacteries, light a menorah, bless the lulav, read Megillah. We've done a lot. All that's left is one more thing. Read from the Torah. And that's why your federation, your sisterhood, Hadassah, AIPAC, AJC, every Jewish organization should have a resolution that it is time to allow women to read from the Torah at the holiest site of the Jewish people. That's the right thing to do. Israel should lead the Jewish world, not be dragged there by her hair, shouting and screaming the whole way. So in this juncture between wringing your hands and rolling up your sleeves, I'd like to mention that it is a physical impossibility to do this at the same time. You have to make up your mind. You want to roll up your sleeves like Ellen that watches us and supports us, or you want to wring your hands and just say, okay, enough with what's wrong with the Jews over there? Are they crazy? So I invite you to roll up your sleeves together with us, time your visit to Israel during Rosh Chodesh and join us. Support us if you can. Buy our talitot. Send us a good word. Read our newsletter and send it to your friends. Be nice to Nechama, who made Aliyah from Phoenix, Arizona, to become a woman of the wall. And I thank you very much and wish you a wonderful week.
Thank you so much, Anat. I also wanted to, it landed a few times in the chat, sisterhood members and Temple Mount Sinai members who would like to say thank you to Fifi, who actually got the board fired up and sisterhood fired up to host Women for the Wall and bring this education to our community. I can admit 2 months ago in our board meeting when we were explaining Women of the Wall to a few committee members, there were a couple of question marks over heads. I am glad to remove some of those question marks, educate, and encourage people, like Anat said, to learn more and to support and to donate and plan trips and get active. Thank you, Anat. Thank you, Nechama. Thank you, Fifi. Thank you, everyone who is here. Everyone who is here and your friends weren't able to join you, let them know that I will have a video for everyone to view once it renders. Yeah, thank you all for being here, and I'll let everyone say their goodbyes if they'd like. I'm going to stop recording though.